Hey, it's Johnny Jet, and welcome back to my podcast YouTube channel. Today, we have a special guest, Nick Wayland, coming to you from all the way down under to Australia. His wife, Dominica, was kind enough to do an interview with me several months ago when she was in quarantine. We talked about what it was like to fly to Australia, and she actually did it from her quarantine hotel because they're so strict. But I mean, if there is any place in the world I'd rather be right now than the US, it would be Australia, and New Zealand would be the top of the list because these guys have done it right. But let's hear it from an Aussie to see if they agree with it. I mean, from the outside, it seems like it's a dream. So how you doing, Nick?
Yeah, Johnny, I'm fantastic, and thank you very much for giving me some airtime on your show. I hear it's very successful. Dominica told me how much she enjoyed talking about being in quarantine, and yes, we're reasonably safe down here. We've had a couple of outbursts of the coronavirus, but we've been relatively unscathed by it. Although every time we go into lockdown, of course, the country seems to slow down to an absolute stop. And although it's better to be safe than sorry, it has had an impact like us, like the rest of the world.
I mean, an outbreak for you guys is like 25 cases maybe in the whole country. I get that around the corner from my house.
Yeah, no, I think we've actually got up to the 500s or 600s or 700s, but I mean that's what you guys are doing like every couple of hours. So I'm feeling reasonably safe and sheltered in this part of the world.
So, first of all, Nick splits his time between New York and Australia. I mean, this guy travels everywhere. You'd go to Australia at least 7 times a year from the US, correct?
Correct.
And he runs TravMedia, which is, I mean, how do you explain TravMedia?
Well, it's quite simple. We're the LinkedIn of the travel industry, although not as big. We work in a very small niche market, which is B2B, from tourism destinations to journalists. And we also have a
Oh boy, you broke up. You froze. Not the most flattering picture, but you're a good looking guy. So, but you kind of look like you're in The Sopranos right now. Hello, can you hear me? Well, let's hope. Hopefully, he unfreezes.
Did I lose you?
Yeah, I lost you. The Wi-Fi froze.
Sorry.
So we lost you right when you said you're the LinkedIn of whatever you said, LinkedIn of something.
Okay, so we're the LinkedIn of the travel industry. We're a very small niche, though. But we're a B2B, from destinations to the media. Although we do trade, and we do trade shows. We're a technology platform.
Oh, Nick, it started out
to
so
distribute
well.
all your digital assets. Okay.
Is it my connection or your connection?
I'm on a separate connection. I can go back to my home connection.
Yeah, if you can try that, because I think I'm pretty good.
Do you want me to? Do you want to stop and start again? Okay. Just let me go back to my home. I'm going to disappear for a second.
Okay. All right, we're back. So you're
fantastic, Johnny. Sorry about that. We're the LinkedIn of the travel industry. So basically, we're a very niche market in terms of we are the B2B between the destinations, hotels, airlines, cruise lines, and the media. So when you're a destination, you want to get your information out to the media, whether it be johnnyjet.com or the New York Times, you'll place your products on the TravMedia platform, your news, your information, your photographs, and it's a resource. It's a Google resource of everything that you need to write your stories.
Yeah. So whenever I go to these big travel conferences around the world, and it's almost like set up like speed dating, Nick is the one that's usually operating it, and they do a great job. But by the way, Nick was having problems with the internet, and while I paused, Nick was telling me, one of the reasons why you don't want to move to Australia is because the internet is pretty poor down there, which surprises me. But that would be a factor. I mean, it seemed like it's fine in New Zealand, or actually maybe there were some little hiccups there too. But so and you're in Sydney. I mean, and you don't mess around. So is it just
No,
prime time right now? What time is it there? It's like 11
oh,
a.m.
it's 11 a.m. in the morning, so it shouldn't be too much of a problem. But you can just imagine with such vast distances and such a small population, it's a big infrastructure to build, and we're never going to be able to be as robust as the US.
Yeah, Australia, if you don't know, is about the same size as the continental U.S., but it has a fraction of the population. I think like 10%. What is there, 25 or 30 million people there? And we're
Oh,
330.
no, 24 million. So you're
24
right.
million. I think 4 million are in Sydney, which by the way is one of my favorite cities in the world. I've been fortunate to have gone there. I don't know how many times, but a lot. And I not enough. And I haven't been there since the Dodgers played in the world in the spring training. It was the last time I went there, like 5 years ago.
Well, I know from my friends at Tourism Australia, they're a big fan of yours, and I know you're very, very supportive of Australia as a destination to travel to. So on their behalf, thank you very much.
Well, listen, Australia actually was what got me the travel kick. I mean, I saw Crocodile Dundee when I was in high school, and I was like, I gotta go to Australia. And I loved Paul Hogan. I loved those commercials where he would put, pop a shrimp on the Barbie. Even though you guys don't really say that, do you?
No, no, no. We do call them prawns, but we understand what a shrimp on the barbie is.
Yeah. Um, so, when I talked to you when you first went back down to Australia, when COVID hit,
Mhm.
you're telling me that people weren't wearing masks, but because of this new strain, you told me the other day that they're actually now people are starting to wear masks. So what's the deal?
Yeah, look, so it's now compulsory to wear a mask on any public transport or in shopping centers. And we have like this police state mentality where you actually get fined thousands of dollars if you don't follow the rules. So I have at least 3 masks in my car at all times, and if I leave and forget a mask, I have to come back and come home and get one. But yeah, it's policy here, and understandably, this UK strain is so contagious that a hotel cleaner got the disease and spread it at their home just from cleaning up the room after the person had left.
Wow.
So it's a bit of a worry. But look, Johnny, we have got nothing to complain about here. What you guys are getting in an hour, we're getting in a week in
Right.
terms of new cases. So we've done very well, and our death rate's under 1,000. You guys are doing 1,000 every couple of hours.
Right.
So we're feeling very safe and secure down here. It's done, obviously, it's to the detriment of the travel industry. We can only travel domestically. I'm stuck here in Australia. Luckily, my wife, as you mentioned, Dominica, was able to come to see me, but she's limited with her visa. We have a terrible immigration policy and a terrible visa policy. We love you to come, but we also love you to go.
Right.
It's a bit tough, even if you're married.
I mean,
So yeah,
so you can't even, I mean, Americans can't go to Australia right now. Even Australians can't get in Australia right now because they're only taking a certain amount a week, correct?
yeah, it's 50 per flight. So, and with the UK strain, they've reduced it from something like 5,000 people a week down to 3,000 people a week. So we've just had Emirates Airlines and ANA Airlines pull out of Australia because the limitations on the number of people per flight is so small that the airlines can't possibly make any money with cargo.
Right. And when you do go to Australia, you have to quarantine for 2 weeks in a government hotel. They follow you. I mean, you can listen to the interview that we did, but I mean, there's basically a guard right outside your room door, and you can't
Yeah.
even leave. And it's actually making the news now because a lot of the Australian tennis players, and not Australian, the tennis players that are going to the Australian Open were on flights that had coronavirus, and now they can't even leave their room, and they're like, we need fresh air, whatever.
Yeah, it's quite ridiculous because they're staying in 5-star hotels, like our best hotels in Melbourne, and they're comparing it to a Spanish prison. But look, no sympathy there. Look, we need to keep the virus under control. I lost a friend in the UK last week, my father's best friend. So we know that it's been absolutely devastating to the world. Of 400,000 deaths in the US alone. We just don't want that here. And we've been told it's going to be 2022 before we're going to be opening up the borders. That was the announcement made yesterday.
I mean, I've read that. So that is true. Like you can't leave Australia till next year. Is that what they're telling you?
Well, I'm in a unique position, of course, when my wife's in New York and I'm actually domiciled in New York and Florida. So I'm okay. I can get out, but whether I can get back into the country is a whole nother thing. There are something like 38,000 Australians trying to get back home. And they're people who have got legitimate reasons to come back. They've either lost their jobs or their visas with Canadian. There was one that was a Canadian visa, working visa had run out and they had to return. And they just simply can't get on the planes. And these are people who booked flights 6 months ago.
Wow.
And they've been told that their flights have been cancelled or that they can't get back in the country. It's kind of like, I don't know, Alcatraz.
And they got to pay. And you have to pay.
Yeah.
You have to pay, I think, $4,000 for the quarantine.
Well, it's 3,000 Australian dollars.
Okay.
So it's a little, and it's pretty basic. You don't get the 5-star food. You don't even get alcohol. You're limited. Well, you do get alcohol, but you're limited to 1 bottle per day. Oh, wow. And us Australians, we like having a drink.
Yeah. By the way, is that my email or your email that keeps popping?
Oh, it's probably mine. I'll try and turn it down.
So, and when you got there before the quarantine, right? You did not have to quarantine, just your wife did.
Well, that's true. In fact, I got in just a few days before they made quarantine mandatory. I was in Paris, and I remember turning on CNN and seeing at literally 2:00 in the morning, because I was jet lagged, Donald Trump saying, we're going to close the borders between us and Europe. And the next day I was on a plane back to Australia. So I was right in the heat of it in Paris whilst this was all going down. Italy was in lockdown. And I managed to just get in the country a few days before quarantine started, which was way back in March.
Actually, you texted me because I was on CNN that day. You said,
hey, you were. That's right.
Me.
Yeah,
talking about that, which was a big shock when he did that. So when you go out now, I mean, do you feel like there's COVID? I mean, I guess people wear masks.
No, apart from the mask and being vigilant, no, absolutely not. Oh, and the other thing is sanitizer. Sanitizer is everywhere. You go into a shopping center, you're forced to, do your hands with a sanitizer, and there's somebody there to take your temperature. So yeah, there are obviously health precautions that are happening, but you walk down the beach, normal as any other day in summer.
You don't have to wear a mask. You have to wear a mask on the beach?
No. Not outside and not when exercising.
Okay. And how about, the restaurants and stores are open?
Restaurants and stores are all open. There's a thing called a 4 square meter policy. So you can only have enough guests in your restaurant as long as you reach the 4 square meter separation, which I don't quite get, but it's just, I guess, to limit the spread in case there is an outbreak.
Right. So when you go out to dinner, do you go indoors or do you go outdoors, or do you not go?
Well, we're fairly lucky in summer. I guess like most of European destinations in summer, a lot of the restaurants are sort of half outdoors and indoors. And when you look at them, indoors is all empty. Everybody's sitting outside in the sun and enjoying the fresh air. So we're pretty careful, and we're pretty okay when it comes to these outbreaks. And we've had quite a few of them. We shut down suburbs. So before Christmas for 3 weeks. Through to the new year, we shut down the northern beaches of Sydney. So nobody from Manly to Palm Beach, if you know Sydney's North Shore very well, nobody in about 1.5 million people were allowed to travel, were allowed to see anybody, were allowed to go anywhere. They all had to stay at home, unless, of course, you were shopping or exercising.
How about Bondi? Bondi's not Northern Beach, is it? It's just Manly.
Manly to Palm Beach, correct. Bondi was okay.
Okay.
But in Melbourne, when they had this outbreak, and this was something to do with the security guards in the hotels, basically one of them caught it from the passengers that came back and went home into these government housing, massive, blocks of 600 people, and they spread it like wildfire. The whole city was shut down for 128 days. Imagine that. You can't move.
And it was one security guard who was getting it on with the passenger, right?
No. I think that was a bit of a beat up media rumor.
Okay.
I don't know that there's much truth to that. Made a very good story.
It did make a great story. I remembered it. What's that?
Naughty security guards.
I have no comment. So let me see what other questions I can ask you. So So is Dominique there? I mean, her
Yeah.
visa runs out. What does she do?
Well, she leaves in March, and I guess the real problem is we don't know when she's going to be able to come back. So that's it. You know, it could be five. We did 5 months between March and August, so we might be up for another 5 months, which makes it very difficult for us. But
Really was.
we do this. We do these Zoom calls, and we talk to each other a lot, and but 5 or 6 times a day. So as you know, we work together, so that also helps.
Yeah,
But
sure.
it might end up being a couple of lonely months for me.
Let's hope these vaccinations.
I agree. Let's hope the borders open. I thank goodness we don't have kids. Can you imagine if we had kids, Johnny?
No, I can't.
That would make it terrible. Where would the kids go, and who would they go with? It'd just be impossible.
Right. So, by the way, how are the vaccinations doing? Have you gotten vaccinated?
No, so we haven't rolled out, or weren't going to roll out our first vaccinations till March, and we were going to do 1 million a week. So that gives us 6 months before we'd have the entire country vaccinated. So we brought it forward to February. It's meant to be, actually hasn't even been approved yet, but obviously it's going to happen fairly shortly. But yeah, we're waiting till March. We want to see how the rest of the world is dealing with the vaccination. As you may have heard, in Norway, there were 30 people who died who were vaccinated, and that sort of put a bit of a scare up with everybody. But it's going to be compulsory for everybody to be vaccinated if you want to fly on Qantas. Right. So if you want to travel, you're going to have to get the vaccination. I'm going to get it as soon as I can. I'll be on the first plane out of here.
I'd like to be on the first plane there. But so, by the way, since tourists aren't really there, is it a noticeable difference when you're walking down a street? Can you tell that it's like a lot less crowded than normal?
I think it's more the fact that everybody's working from home now. So that's been a massive game changer. And I mean, just today we're in my office. I'm in my home office, beg your pardon, and I've got my staff next door. So there's a definite distinctive difference with the way we're working. But in terms of tourism numbers, everyone's traveling domestically. So places like Byron Bay and Noosa are saying that they've never had it so good. Wow. Look, I certainly can't say the same for 5-star hotels in the CBDs, because you don't have the business traveler, and you don't have the domestic traveler who want to go to the cities, and you certainly don't have the international traveler. So I was speaking to my friends at Hyatt the other day, and they're down to like 7% occupancy.
7?
And at 7%.
7.
And their break even is 7% is nothing. You're right.
Yeah.
And their break even is something like 37%. Yeah. I mean, they're losing millions and millions and millions of dollars. So
I stayed at Park Hyatt, and it's one of the nicest hotels around. And I've been to Byron Bay and Noosa, which are great little spots up there. Although Noosa, I found, was really expensive.
Well, they're booked up for 3 to 6 months now. If you have an Airbnb house up there, you struck it rich.
Wow.
Because there's the demand, the domestic demand is through the roof. Because of course we've got nowhere else we can travel to.
And have you traveled?
You guys can. That's a good question. No, I'm not outside the Sydney CBD since March.
Wow.
So I'm not, as you said, I used to travel more than anybody I know, except for you. And I haven't been on a plane. I haven't been on a plane since March. Wow. So I'm coming up to almost 11 months without seeing a plane. I haven't
been on a plane since February.
I've been on a plane.
So I'm with you. I mean, the longest I ever gone was 3 to 4 weeks, and now it's almost a year. Yeah. And I honestly don't know when I will be able to get back on a plane. I'm hoping in May. I have tickets for April, but I just don't think it's going to happen.
You're right. But excellent. You going to get vaccinated?
Yeah, actually, I just registered yesterday on the LA County site, and it says, I can do it in late April, and my wife in mid-May. But I'm like, that's a long way. I was hoping it was me a lot earlier. My dad got vaccinated in Florida a week or two ago. His first shot. Yeah. So
I saw that. Good to know. Well, what the first responders, teachers, and the elderly. I mean, they've definitely got to be go through the paper.
And each state is different. And actually, I was just reading an article today in the LA Times where the journalist is going to Alaska because there's no wait in Alaska. You can just go on up.
Wow.
They have plenty of shots. So I'm like, should I fly to Alaska and get vaccinated?
Wow. That's
But
not a bad idea, is it?
we'll see. Anyway,
Yeah.
have I missed anything besides seeing you in person? And this week is usually, or next week is usually your big meeting in New York City. That actually it's usually right now. I was just getting my Facebook memories of
Mhm.
TravMedia Showcase in New York, which is always a couple days before or the day before the New York Times travel show.
Yeah, we've had to pivot like everybody in the industry, and we've made it virtual, and so we're all online. So we have 550 delegates coming to our virtual online online show. So that's something we've rolled out all over the world, and it's the only way to sort of change your business model, isn't it, during these pandemic times? But as you say, Johnny, the industry's been devastated by this China virus, and
So is that what they
vaccine
call it
can't come soon.
in Australia? Do they call it the China virus? I mean, because
No, I'm taking the piss out of your president.
okay, I see. Because people don't like that here, and he's a
Okay.
former president. By the time this airs,
Former president.
he's only
All
got a
right.
few hours left.
Okay.
Today's the 19th.
It's definitely COVID down here.
Okay.
We don't echo any of those words.
Okay, good, because we're the same way here. We don't like the China virus. It's
It's
COVID-19.
Bit of tongue in cheek.
That's how Aussies are. I mean, Aussies are always tongue in cheek.
Yeah, no, all good. But I miss you, and I miss Natalie, and I miss coming to visit you in LA, and I can't wait to be able to do that again. I can't wait to be back to the States, go to Europe, and do what all of us love to do. It's only natural that we want to migrate, that we want to holiday, that we want to travel. It's embedded into our DNA that we've had for hundreds of thousands of years, and although we in Australia we can only travel with the four wheels, or there is some flights, but most of it's by car or driving distance. It's been great to visit the country for most people to get to know your own backyard, but we can't wait to be back into the Northern Hemisphere. And as I always say, Australia is the 51st state, so we feel that we're connected to the hip with you guys and can't wait to be back.
Do they say that? I actually never knew that they call Australia the 51st state. I know they always they would call Israel the 51st state.
Well, we have so much in common. We go to wars, rightly or wrongly, with each other, and we're all part of the British colonies. Although most of us came out. Well, most of us came out as convicts or generations of convicts. So we just got a lot to share in the US, I guess, more than the English. And we watch all of your television down here, and we certainly watch your elections like it's our own. We're very patriotic towards our own country, but I would say the US is certainly our closest ally and neighbor, along with New Zealand.
That's nice to hear. Very nice to hear. My last question: sporting events, are they going on right now, and can people go to them?
Well, yeah, it's a very good question. So we just finished the cricket. And unfortunately, India beat us, and we've slipped from being number 2 in the world to number 3. Bit bruising of our pride, but as long as you wear a mask, you were able to attend the cricket. And of course, we've got the Australian Tennis Open that's coming up in the next couple of weeks. It's the 4 square meter rule, so you just need to spread people out. But I don't. I mean, they're talking about like 100,000 people going to these events. So I don't know how they're going to do the 4 square meter rule. But yes, summertime is the strongest sporting activity part of the time of the year. And so it's pretty much business as usual. Although I heard last week that the Grand Prix has been postponed till November.
I see. Okay.
So not all sporting activities are going on. And then, of course, the Grand Prix, which was meant to be in March last year, got cancelled. So rather than cancelling it again this year, they just postponed it to the end of the season.
I see. I was just looking for I have an Australian Eastern Suburb Roosters hat that I got at a match a long time ago. I was going to wear it. But you probably like the rabbit tail.
That's my favorite. That's my favorite rugby club, and then it's the regional district that I was born in. So very much an Eastern Suburbs Roosters fan. You got it? No, that's fantastic.
Yay! So I'm not lying.
Oh, there you are. Sounds great. Good stuff.
All right,
Johnny,
Nick.
good to see you.
You too, buddy.
Thank you for the lovely chat. Thank you for your time. Good to hear from you.
Hopefully next time I
you.
see you, it'll be in person in Australia or in New York or wherever.
Looking forward to it.
Right,
Cheers,
buddy,
mate.
take care. Bye-bye.
Bye, buddy. Bye.